Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery and watched the blue-green planet grow larger on the main screen. After 8 months of traveling through empty space, Kepler 442b looked like a jewel floating in the darkness. The orbital scans showed thick forests, vast oceans, and an atmosphere rich with oxygen. Everything pointed to a world bursting with life. Dr. Lisa Parker joined him at the viewing screen, her tablet showing the latest biological readings. The xenobiologist had spent weeks studying the data streaming from their long-range sensors. Dense vegetation covered most of the land masses, while the oceans teemed with activity that made their instruments light up like Christmas trees. "It's beautiful," Lisa said, scrolling through image after image of towering trees and crystalline rivers. "The biodiversity readings are off the charts. This place makes Earth's rainforest look empty by comparison." Ben Rodriguez looked up from his communications station and shook his head. His dark hair was messy from running his hands through it in frustration. For the past week, he had been scanning every frequency known to human science, searching for any sign of intelligent communication. Radio waves, microwave bursts, quantum signals, even basic electromagnetic patterns that might indicate technology. The results were always the same. Nothing but the natural background noise of space. "Still no artificial signals," Ben reported, adjusting his headphones. "Whatever's down there, it's not broadcasting anything we can detect. No radio, no digital transmissions, no structured electromagnetic activity at all." Katie Walsh emerged from the engine room, wiping grease from her hands with a cloth. The chief engineer had been fine-tuning their scanning arrays for maximum sensitivity. If there was any trace of advanced technology on the planet below, their equipment should be able to find it. "The sensors are running at full power," Katie announced. "I've calibrated everything for maximum range and sensitivity. If there's so much as a flashlight down there, we'll spot it." Jake nodded and activated the ship's intercom. "All hands prepare for orbital insertion. We're going to take a closer look at our new neighbor." The Discovery entered a stable orbit around Kepler 442b, and the crew began their detailed survey. Lisa deployed her biological scanning drones, sending them deep into the atmosphere to collect samples and record the countless species that called this world home. The creatures they found were unlike anything in Earth's fossil record. Massive, herbivores the size of blue whales grazed in meadows that stretched beyond the horizon. Aerial creatures with gossamer wings danced through the upper atmosphere like living auroras. Katie's technological scanners painted a different picture. No metal structures broke the forest canopy. No artificial lights dotted the night side of the planet. No power signatures indicated cities or industrial activity. The electromagnetic spectrum remained stubbornly natural, showing only the planet's magnetic field and atmospheric electricity. Ben expanded his communication sweeps, testing frequencies that human science had only recently discovered. He broadcast mathematical sequences, prime numbers, and simple patterns that any intelligent species should recognize. The responses were always the same: silence punctuated only by the natural static of cosmic radiation. "It doesn't make sense," Lisa said during their morning briefing. "The biological complexity here suggests millions of years of stable evolution. On Earth, that kind of stability usually leads to intelligence emerging somewhere in the ecosystem. But our scans show nothing higher than basic animal cognition." Jake studied the data streaming across his command console. Every reading confirmed the same pattern they had found on 17 previous worlds during their 2-year mission. Life was abundant throughout this region of the galaxy, but intelligence seemed to be vanishingly rare. Earth appeared to be unique in producing a species capable of space travel and advanced technology. "Maybe we're looking in the wrong places," Katie suggested. "What if intelligence here developed along completely different lines? Our scanners are designed to detect human-style technology, metal and electronics and electromagnetic signals. But what if they use something else entirely?" Ben shook his head. "The laws of physics are universal. Any species that develops space travel has to work with the same electromagnetic spectrum we use. Radio waves don't change just because you're on a different planet." Lisa launched additional survey drones, sending them to every continent and major landmass. The biological readings were consistent everywhere, thriving ecosystems with incredible diversity, but no signs of agriculture, construction, or environmental modification that would indicate sapient interference. The planet seemed to be a pristine wilderness that had never known the touch of civilization. Jake authorized the deployment of a temporary research station on the largest continent. The crew spent 3 weeks on the surface, collecting samples and conducting detailed surveys of the local wildlife. Lisa cataloged over 2,000 new species in that time, from microscopic organisms that glowed like tiny stars to massive predators that moved through the forests like living avalanches. The research station's sensors operated around the clock, monitoring electromagnetic radiation across every known frequency. Katie installed quantum detection equipment that could identify the most subtle technological signatures. Ben established communication arrays that broadcast continuously, sending mathematical proofs and logical sequences into the planet's atmosphere. The results never varied. Kepler 442b was alive with natural beauty but apparently devoid of intelligence. The forests showed no signs of management or cultivation. The rivers flowed along natural channels unmarked by dams or bridges. The night sky remained dark except for the gentle phosphorescence of nocturnal creatures. During their final week on the surface, Jake stood outside the research station and watched the alien constellations wheel overhead. The air smelled of flowers he couldn't name, carried by breezes that rustled through leaves like whispered conversations. Somewhere in the darkness, creatures called to each other with sounds that seemed almost musical, but followed no pattern that suggested language or meaning. "Another empty world," he said to Lisa as she joined him under the starlight. She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Beautiful, complex, ancient, but empty of anyone to appreciate it except us. Sometimes I wonder if intelligence is just too rare to matter on a galactic scale. Maybe Earth really is special." Ben's voice crackled through their communicators. "Final communication sweep complete. No responses to any of our broadcasts. Whatever intelligence was going to develop here either hasn't yet or went extinct long ago." Jake made his decision. "Pack it up. We'll leave a monitoring beacon in orbit and move on to the next system. Maybe Kepler 438c will have better luck." As the Discovery prepared for departure, Jake filed his report with Earth Command, another world rich in life but lacking the spark of consciousness that might have made humanity less alone in the universe. The galaxy seemed vast and full of wonders, but empty of friends to share them with. Deep beneath the forest canopy, hidden sensors recorded every detail of the human departure. In chambers that registered no electromagnetic signature, beings of pure thought debated whether these latest visitors showed any promise of joining the select few species worthy of contact. For now, the consensus remained unchanged. Maintain concealment and continue observation. The galaxy was far too dangerous a place for careless revelations. 3 months later, the UES Discovery returned to Kepler 442b with expanded equipment and a new mission directive. Dr. Amy Foster had convinced Earth Command that their standard scanning methods might be missing subtle signs of intelligence. The anthropologist brought with her advanced pattern recognition software and behavioral analysis equipment, designed to detect traces of sapient activity that conventional sensors might overlook. Jake watched the familiar blue-green world grow, larger on their approach. The planet looked exactly as they had left it, pristine and beautiful under its golden sun. This time, however, they were not just cataloging wildlife. They were hunting for evidence of minds that might be hiding in ways human science had never considered. Amy stood beside him on the bridge, her gray eyes studying the preliminary scans with intense focus. Unlike the rest of the crew, she had never accepted that a world this biologically rich could be completely devoid of intelligence. Her decades of studying human cultures had taught her that consciousness often expressed itself in ways that seemed invisible until you knew where to look. "Intelligence doesn't always announce itself with radio signals and metal cities," she explained as they entered orbit. "Some of Earth's most sophisticated societies left barely any archaeological trace. If a species developed along different technological lines, we might walk right past them without knowing they exist." Lisa was eager to return to the surface and continue her biological surveys. The 3 weeks they had spent here previously had barely scratched the surface of this world's incredible biodiversity. Katie had improved their scanning arrays during the journey back, adding new sensors designed to detect exotic materials and energy signatures that might indicate non-traditional technology. Ben remained skeptical, but professional. His communication equipment was more sensitive than ever, capable of detecting quantum fluctuations and gravitational waves that might carry information. If anyone was trying to communicate on this world, he would find them. They established their base camp beside the same crystalline river where they had worked before. The location offered fresh water, level ground for their equipment, and easy access to multiple ecosystem types. Within hours of landing, the crew had deployed their expanded sensor network and begun the most detailed planetary survey in human history. The first strange incident occurred on their second night planetside. Katie discovered that her toolkit had been moved. The engineer was meticulous about equipment placement, always returning her tools to precise locations in her storage cases. When she found her quantum calibrator sitting 2 inches to the left of where she had placed it, she assumed someone on the crew had borrowed it without asking. "Who used my quantum calibrator?" she asked during the morning briefing. The question drew blank stares. Lisa had been processing biological samples all night. Ben had been monitoring communications from the orbital relay. Jake had been reviewing mission reports. Amy had been analyzing behavioral patterns in the local wildlife recordings. "Maybe you just forgot where you put it," Ben suggested. Katie shook her head firmly. "I've been doing this job for 15 years. I don't misplace precision instruments." Over the following days, more items went missing and reappeared. Always moved just slightly, always returned within 24 hours, always seemingly examined, but not damaged. Ben's backup communicator vanished from his workstation and turned up on an equipment shelf with microscopic scratches around the battery compartment. Lisa's sample containers were rearranged in her storage cabinet, organized by molecular composition in a way that made more scientific sense than her original system. Amy began documenting these incidents with forensic precision. She installed hidden cameras around their base camp and started analyzing the microscopic traces left on the moved equipment. What she found made her heart race with excitement. Tool marks on the metal surfaces showed analysis methods more sophisticated than anything in the human toolkit. Whatever was examining their equipment possessed technology far beyond their current capabilities. "Something is studying us," Amy announced during their weekly conference call with Earth Command. "Not just watching us, actively investigating our technology with instruments we can't even detect." The response from Mission Control was predictable skepticism. Director Harrison suggested that the strange incidents were probably the result of exotic atmospheric conditions or previously unknown wildlife behavior. He ordered them to continue their planned surveys and avoid drawing conclusions from limited data. Ben started noticing anomalies in his background radiation readings, patterns that seemed too regular to be natural but too subtle to be obvious. Communication attempts. The fluctuations followed mathematical sequences, prime numbers, geometric progressions, and harmonic ratios that suggested deliberate intelligence behind their generation. "Look at this," he said, showing Amy the data patterns on his screen. "These readings pulse in Fibonacci sequences. No natural phenomenon creates patterns like this." Amy studied the waveforms with growing excitement. The mathematical relationships were unmistakable. Someone was embedding coded information in the background electromagnetic noise of the planet. When she fed the patterns into her analysis software, they resolved into geometric principles and physical constants that any scientifically literate species would recognize. Lisa made the most startling discovery while examining her biological samples under the molecular scanner. The genetic structures of the local plant life showed signs of artificial modification, but modifications so sophisticated that they appeared completely natural unless examined at the quantum level. Entire ecosystems had been carefully engineered over thousands of years to maintain perfect ecological balance while supporting maximum biodiversity. "This whole planet is a garden," Lisa breathed, staring at the genetic analysis results. "Every species has been subtly modified to fit into a perfectly balanced ecosystem." The engineering required to do this is centuries beyond our current capabilities. Katie found evidence of the same advanced engineering in the planetary geology. Mineral deposits were distributed in patterns that seemed random on the surface, but followed complex mathematical relationships that optimized both ecological stability and aesthetic beauty. Underground water systems had been shaped by forces that left no obvious tool marks but created flow patterns of impossible elegance and efficiency. Amy compiled all their evidence into a comprehensive report that painted an inescapable conclusion. Kepler 442b was not a wilderness world, but the masterwork of a civilization so advanced that their technology had become invisible to human detection methods. The entire planet was simultaneously a vast biological preserve and a testament to engineering capabilities that made human cities look like sandcastles. In the hidden depths of their bio-integrated city, the Viridian Council convened an emergency session to debate the unprecedented situation unfolding above them. For 50,000 years, their concealment protocols had kept them safely hidden from the countless species that passed through their system. Most visitors were primitive nomads barely capable of interplanetary travel who scanned briefly for resources before moving on to easier targets. These humans were different. Young Viridian scientist HFY presented detailed analysis of human behavioral patterns that showed cognitive capabilities far exceeding the typical level of emerging, spacefaring species. Their curiosity was relentless, their analytical methods surprisingly sophisticated, and their collaborative intelligence was accelerating their technological development at an unprecedented rate. Elder Morthane maintained that contact protocols must not be compromised regardless of human capabilities. The safety of Viridian civilization depended on absolute concealment from the chaotic violence that characterized most galactic species. Opening communication with primitives had historically led to contamination, cultural destabilization, and eventual warfare. But HFY argued that these humans might represent something that had never been encountered before, a species with the potential to become true partners rather than subjects or threats. Their rapid advancement and collaborative approach to problem-solving suggested they might be capable of the kind of peaceful cooperation that Viridian philosophy valued above all else. The debate raged through the night cycles as the Council weighed 50 millennia of successful isolation against the tantalizing possibility of genuine first contact with equals. Above them, the human researchers continued their investigation, slowly uncovering evidence that would soon make concealment impossible to maintain. Amy Foster worked through the night, analyzing every piece of data they had collected. The pattern was undeniable. They were being carefully studied by intelligences that possessed technology so far beyond human capabilities that contact seemed almost impossible. Yet someone had decided to reveal themselves gradually, leaving clues that only the most persistent investigation would uncover. They want us to find them, Amy realized as dawn broke over the alien landscape. But they're testing us first, making sure we're ready for what we're going to discover. Amy's request for additional specialists arrived at Earth Command with the highest priority classification. Within 6 weeks, the research vessel UES Meridian had launched carrying Dr. Carl Peterson, humanity's leading expert in xenolinguistics, and Dr. Rachel Kim, whose work with quantum communication had revolutionized interstellar messaging. They brought experimental equipment designed specifically for first contact scenarios that traditional electromagnetic communication could not handle. Jake met the new arrivals at the orbital docking station with barely contained excitement. After months of mysterious evidence and tantalizing clues, they finally had the tools and expertise necessary to establish meaningful contact with whatever intelligence was hiding on Kepler 442b. Carl was a thin man with sharp features and bright blue eyes that seemed to take in every detail simultaneously. His reputation for decoding ancient human languages had earned him the position as humanity's primary xenolinguistic theorist. Rachel appeared younger than her 45 years, with short black hair and the intense focus of someone accustomed to working with concepts that existed at the very edge of human understanding. "Show me everything," Carl said as soon as he reached the planet's surface. Amy walked him through their accumulated evidence: the moved equipment, the mathematical patterns in background radiation, the engineered ecosystem, and the sophisticated analysis marks left on their instruments. His excitement grew with each revelation. Classic intelligence testing behavior, he concluded. They're evaluating our cognitive capabilities, technical understanding, and social cooperation levels. This is exactly what our first contact protocols recommend doing when encountering potentially dangerous unknown species. Rachel immediately began deploying her quantum communication arrays. The devices looked like crystalline sculptures that hummed with barely audible harmonics, designed to detect and transmit information through quantum entanglement and dimensional resonance rather than traditional electromagnetic radiation. If they're advanced enough to hide from our standard scanners, they might be communicating through quantum channels we've never learned to access, Rachel explained. These instruments should let us detect information transfer methods that don't depend on electromagnetic radiation. The team established their most sophisticated message yet. Using the cleared areas where they had set up their base camp, they created enormous geometric patterns visible from orbit. Mathematical spirals, prime number sequences, and artistic representations of atomic structures covered several acres of carefully arranged stones and vegetation. Ben broadcast harmonic sequences that demonstrated human understanding of musical theory and mathematical relationships. Carl developed a universal mathematics protocol based on physical constants that should be identical throughout the universe. The speed of light, Planck's constant, and the fundamental forces were expressed through carefully constructed visual and auditory patterns that any scientifically literate species should immediately recognize. Katie contributed by modifying their fusion reactor to produce specific electromagnetic signatures that pulsed in patterns representing chemical equations and engineering principles. If their watchers possessed advanced scanning capabilities, they would see demonstrations of human technological achievement that went far beyond simple tool use. The response came within 48 hours, but not in any way they had expected. Rachel's quantum detectors registered a massive surge of information that lasted exactly 3.7 seconds before cutting off completely. The data stream contained mathematical proofs that solved several outstanding problems in human theoretical physics, including equations that explained how to achieve faster-than-light communication through dimensional folding. "This is impossible," Rachel whispered, staring at the quantum readouts. "These equations are decades beyond our current theoretical framework, maybe centuries. Whoever sent this understands aspects of physics that we haven't even begun to explore." Katie discovered that their fusion reactor had been modified during the night. Microscopic changes to the containment field generators had improved efficiency by 37%, while reducing radiation output to virtually zero. The modifications were so elegantly integrated that they appeared to be natural improvements to human engineering, rather than alien intervention. They're not just communicating with us, Katie realized. They're teaching us, showing us how to improve our own technology through methods so subtle that we can learn from them without feeling inferior or dependent. Ben found similar improvements throughout their communication systems. Signal clarity had improved dramatically, power consumption had decreased, and the range of their equipment had expanded well beyond design specifications. Every change was small enough that it could be attributed to gradual optimization, but the cumulative effect represented a significant advancement in human capability. Carl analyzed the patterns of improvement and discovered they followed pedagogical principles used in advanced human educational systems. The modifications were teaching tools designed to help them understand concepts gradually, rather than overwhelming them with incomprehensible alien technology. "They're treating us like promising students," Carl explained. "Each improvement builds on the previous one, allowing us to understand the principles behind the changes rather than just benefiting from them blindly. It's the most sophisticated educational approach I've ever encountered." Amy documented every aspect of their interaction, building a comprehensive profile of the intelligence they were communicating with. The evidence painted a picture of a species, far more advanced than humanity, but one that valued careful development over rapid advancement. Their teaching method suggested a deep understanding of how emerging civilizations needed to grow at their own pace to avoid cultural contamination or technological dependence. The breakthrough came when Dr. Kim's quantum processors began operating, beyond their theoretical limits. The improvements were so subtle that they seemed like natural evolution of human technology, but they enabled her equipment to detect quantum signatures that had been invisible before. Hidden throughout the planet's electromagnetic spectrum were layers of information that revealed the true scope of the civilization they were dealing with. "There are millions of them," Rachel reported, her voice filled with awe. "The quantum signatures show a population distributed across every continent, living in structures that exist partially outside our normal dimensional space. They've been here the entire time, watching everything we do." Jake realized they had moved beyond simple first contact into something unprecedented in human experience. They were not dealing with a species at their own technological level or even one slightly more advanced. They were communicating with a civilization so far beyond human capabilities that the gap seemed almost unbridgeable. Yet the aliens had chosen to reveal themselves gradually, providing guidance and improvement, rather than domination or dismissal. Their approach suggested a level of wisdom and patience that humanity had rarely encountered, even among its own species. Ben intercepted quantum transmissions that contained what appeared to be historical records, vast archives of information, about thousands of different species that had passed through this system over millennia. Most had been catalogued, studied, and forgotten as they followed predictable patterns of development and eventual stagnation or self-destruction. "We're not their first contact," Ben realized. "We're not even their 100th. They've been studying emerging species for thousands of years, and most of them never knew these aliens existed." The sobering implication hit the entire team simultaneously. Humanity was not unique in achieving space travel or developing advanced technology. They were simply the latest in a long line of species that had reached this level of development, been evaluated by hidden watchers, and found either worthy or unworthy of continued attention. Carl spent sleepless nights analyzing the historical data, searching for patterns that might explain what made some species special enough to earn continued contact while others were forgotten. The answer, when he found it, changed his understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. "It's not about technology," he announced during their morning briefing. "It's not about intelligence or even wisdom. The species they've maintained long-term contact with all share one characteristic. They actively seek cooperation with other intelligences rather than domination or isolation." Amy felt pieces of a vast puzzle clicking into place. The careful testing, the gradual revelation, the educational approach, it all pointed to an evaluation process designed to identify species capable of genuine partnership rather than subjects requiring management or threats requiring elimination. "They're recruiting," she realized. "Not conquering or studying, recruiting. Looking for species mature enough to join some kind of galactic community that operates on principles of mutual cooperation and shared advancement." The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. Humanity stood on the threshold of the greatest opportunity in their history, but they were being evaluated by standards they barely understood by judges whose capabilities made human achievements seem primitive by comparison. In the hidden depths of their city, the Viridian Council continued their unprecedented debate. The crisis began with an accident that changed everything. Dr. Kim was calibrating her quantum communication array when a power surge from the modified fusion reactor created an unexpected feedback loop. For 37 seconds, her equipment generated a quantum resonance field that interfered with something invisible in the surrounding area. The effect was like turning on lights in a dark room. Suddenly, their scanners detected massive structures, energy signatures, and technological activity that had been completely hidden moments before. Jake stared at the readings in disbelief. Towering spires stretched impossibly high into the atmosphere, held aloft by gravitational fields that bent space around them. Energy conduits snaked through the forest canopy, carrying power loads that dwarfed their fusion reactor. Transportation networks moved through dimensions that human science barely understood, connecting population centers across every continent on the planet. "Emergency protocols," Jake ordered, his training taking over despite the shock. "Defensive positions until we understand what we're dealing with." The crew moved with practiced efficiency, powering up their weapon systems and establishing a protective perimeter around their base camp. Ben transmitted priority alerts to the orbital stations while Katie began emergency shutdown procedures for their most sensitive equipment. Amy continued recording everything, documenting humanity's first glimpse of a truly advanced alien civilization. The response came swiftly, but not from the direction they expected. A shimmering distortion appeared near their camp perimeter, gradually, resolving into a figure that was clearly alien yet strangely familiar. The being stood roughly human height, but moved with fluid grace that suggested either perfect physical conditioning or enhanced biology. Its features were elegant and symmetrical, with large eyes that seemed to hold depths of accumulated wisdom. Rachel's quantum detectors registered massive information flows as the being approached, suggesting communication methods that operated on multiple levels simultaneously. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in their minds rather than through audible sound, translated instantly into concepts they could understand. "I am Zefka of the Viridian Council," the being communicated. "I apologize for the deception, but concealment protocols have protected my people for 50,000 years. Your recent technological achievements have made continued hiding impossible." Jake stepped forward, fighting every instinct that told him to maintain defensive positioning. This was the moment humanity had dreamed of and prepared for. But nothing could have prepared them for the reality of beings this far beyond their current development level. "Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Discovery," he replied aloud, hoping the alien could understand spoken language as well as project thoughts. "We come in peace and seek knowledge about other intelligent life in the galaxy." Zefka's expression suggested something that might have been amusement. "We know why you have come, Captain Morrison. My people have been observing your species since you first achieved interplanetary travel. Your development patterns have been most interesting to study." Amy felt excitement overwhelming her scientific objectivity. Decades of theoretical xenoanthropology were being validated in ways she had never dared imagine. "You've been watching us? For how long? How many other species have you encountered?" The questions tumbled out faster than Zefka could process them. The alien raised what appeared to be a hand in a gesture that somehow conveyed both patience and understanding. "Many questions. I will attempt to provide answers, though some concepts may be difficult to translate into your current linguistic frameworks." Carl activated his recording equipment and prepared his universal translation matrices. This was the conversation that xenolinguistics had been preparing for since the field was first conceived. Every word and gesture would be analyzed for decades to come. "Your species represents data point 47,293 in our long-term study of emerging galactic civilizations," Zefka explained. "Most follow predictable development patterns leading to technological stagnation, resource depletion, or self-destruction through warfare. Very few achieve the level of cooperative intelligence necessary for peaceful interstellar civilization." Ben looked up from his communication console with a disturbed expression. "Data point? You're studying us like laboratory specimens?" Zefka's response carried undertones of something that might have been regret. "Observation without interference has been our policy for millennia. Direct contact with primitive species typically leads to cultural contamination, technological dependence, or violent conflict. We learned long ago that most emerging civilizations cannot psychologically handle evidence of their relative technological inferiority." Katie felt anger building despite her fascination with the advanced technology surrounding them. "Primitive? Our fusion reactors and quantum computers represent centuries of scientific advancement. We've mapped the human genome, split the atom, and sent probes to other star systems." The alien's response was gentle, but devastating. "Your achievements are remarkable for a species at your development level. However, our technology operates on principles your science has not yet discovered. We manipulate matter at the quantum level, bend spacetime for transportation, and communicate across galactic distances instantaneously through dimensional folding." Lisa found her voice despite the overwhelming implications of what they were learning. "Why reveal yourselves to us now? What makes humanity different from the other 47,000 species you've catalogued?" Zefka paused, and for the first time the alien seemed genuinely uncertain. Your development patterns are unprecedented in our long observation period. Most species plateau once they achieve interplanetary capability, but your advancement continues to accelerate. More significantly, your collaborative intelligence allows you to solve problems through cooperation rather than individual genius. Amy recognized the significance immediately. Recursive improvement. Each breakthrough enables faster development of subsequent innovations. We're not just learning, we're learning how to learn more effectively. Precisely, HFY confirmed. Your species demonstrates what our philosophers have long theorized but never observed: truly unlimited potential for advancement. Given sufficient time and resources, humanity might eventually develop beyond even Viridian capabilities. The implications hung in the air like a physical presence. Rachel was the first to voice what they were all thinking. That's why you revealed yourselves. Not to study us, but because we might eventually become your equals. Before HFY could respond, the air around them shimmered and additional figures appeared. These beings carried themselves with the authority of age and position, their mental communications carrying undertones of disapproval and concern. HFY, one of the newcomers, projected with cold formality. You have violated concealment protocols without council authorization. These primitives must be relocated, and their memories adjusted to maintain security. Jake recognized the political dynamics immediately, despite the alien context. HFY was a young idealist whose unauthorized contact had created a diplomatic crisis among the Hidden Watchers. The older aliens represented conservative factions that prioritized security over scientific curiosity. Elder Morthane, HFY replied with respectful defiance. These humans have already detected our presence through their own technological advancement. Concealment is no longer possible, and their development patterns suggest they may achieve parity with our civilization within centuries rather than millennia. Amy stepped forward, addressing the elder directly. We understand your concerns about contact with primitive species. Human history includes many examples of technological cultures destroying less advanced societies through accidental or deliberate interference, but we're not asking for your technology or your protection. We're offering partnership between equals. Elder Morthane's response carried millennia of accumulated wisdom and caution. Partnership? You cannot even travel between star systems without spending months in transit. Your energy production relies on crude fusion reactions. Your communication methods are limited to electromagnetic radiation that crawls across space at light speed. Dr. Kim chose that moment to demonstrate humanity's most sophisticated achievement. She activated her quantum communication array using the modifications that alien guidance had helped them discover. The device established instantaneous contact with their orbital stations, transmitted complex mathematical proofs across dimensional barriers, and demonstrated communication principles that the aliens themselves had taught them to understand. We learn quickly when given the opportunity, Rachel said quietly. Your own improvements to our equipment have accelerated our understanding of physics by decades. We're not asking you to give us advanced technology. We're asking you to help us develop our own potential. Carl added his linguistic analysis to the conversation. Your teaching methods suggest you understand how emerging civilizations need to grow at their own pace. The improvements you've made to our equipment follow pedagogical principles designed to help us learn rather than create dependence. That suggests you've already decided we're worth investing in. The Viridian Council chamber emerged from the forest floor like a living cathedral, its organic architecture blending seamlessly with the surrounding ecosystem. Jake and his team walked through corridors that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, past chambers where beings of incredible age deliberated questions that would reshape galactic civilization. The walls themselves seemed to be listening, recording every word and gesture for analysis by minds that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless species. Elder Morthane stood at the center of the vast amphitheater, addressing hundreds of Viridian representatives who had gathered from across their hidden world. The aliens' mental projections carried the authority of 50 millennia of careful observation and patient study. The concealment protocols have protected our civilization. Since before these humans' ancestors developed agriculture, The elder communicated to the assembled council. Contact with primitive species has historically led to cultural contamination, technological dependence, and eventual violence. We have observed this pattern 47,000 times across our long study of galactic development. Amy listened through ZEFCA's translation interface, marveling at the sophistication of a political system that could function for thousands of years while maintaining philosophical consistency. The Viridians had achieved something that human civilizations had never managed: stable governance that transcended individual lifespans and personal ambitions. ZEFCA stood to present the counter-argument, projecting detailed analysis of human development patterns to every member of the council simultaneously. The young scientist's presentation included behavioral observations, technological assessments, and predictive models that painted humanity as fundamentally different from previously encountered species. These humans demonstrate recursive intelligence acceleration, ZEFCA argued. Each breakthrough enables faster development of subsequent innovations. Their collaborative problem-solving allows them to achieve collective intelligence that exceeds the sum of individual capabilities. Most significantly, they actively seek cooperation with other intelligences rather than domination or isolation. Carl recognized the legal and philosophical frameworks underlying the debate. The Viridians were not just deciding humanity's fate. They were questioning fundamental principles that had guided their civilization for longer than human recorded history. The precedent they set would influence their policies toward every future species they encountered. Dr. Kim raised her hand to request permission to address the council directly. Elder Morthane granted permission with obvious reluctance, clearly uncomfortable with allowing primitive beings to participate in such momentous deliberations. "We understand your concerns about technological contamination," Rachel began, her words translated into concepts that every Viridian could comprehend. "Human history includes many examples of advanced cultures accidentally destroying less developed societies through contact. But we're not asking for your technology. We're offering to help you solve a problem you may not realize you have." The statement drew surprised reactions throughout the chamber. Elder Morthane's mental projection carried undertones of amused condescension. What problem could a species as primitive as humanity possibly help us solve? Dr. Kim activated her quantum analysis equipment, directing its sensors toward the assembled Viridian representatives. The readings that appeared on her screen drew gasps of surprise from the human team and startled silence from the aliens. "Your quantum signatures indicate you're not the only hidden civilization in this region of the galaxy," Rachel announced. "Our instruments detect at least 17 different technological signatures within 50 light-years of this system. You've all developed concealment technology so sophisticated that you're hiding from each other." The revelation struck the council like a physical blow. ZEFCA immediately confirmed the readings with Viridian sensors, discovering quantum signatures that their own detection methods had dismissed as natural phenomena. The possibility that other species had achieved concealment capabilities equivalent to their own had never been seriously considered. Amy recognized the profound implications immediately. "You've been conducting parallel studies of the same emerging species for thousands of years without knowing about each other. 50,000 years of accumulated data, and you've been working in isolation when you could have been collaborating." Elder Morthane struggled to process concepts that challenged the fundamental assumptions underlying Viridian civilization. The idea that their concealment technology might be hiding them from potential allies rather than protecting them from threats represented a paradigm shift of unprecedented magnitude. Katie demonstrated her point by showing how human technology had benefited from subtle Viridian guidance. "The modifications you made to our equipment didn't create dependence. They accelerated our understanding and led to innovations that surprised even you. Collaboration doesn't have to mean domination. It can mean mutual advancement." Ben presented communication protocols that could enable hidden civilizations to contact each other safely. "We could serve as intermediaries, emerging species that aren't advanced enough to threaten anyone, but curious enough to facilitate contact between civilizations that have been hiding from each other for millennia." The debate that followed transcended anything in Viridian political history. Factions that had maintained stable positions for thousands of years found themselves reconsidering basic principles. The possibility of ending galactic isolation and establishing cooperative relationships with peer civilizations offered opportunities that no Viridian had dared imagine. Zefka presented the final argument that swayed the Council toward accepting humanity as partners rather than subjects. These humans offer something we have lost through our long isolation: the willingness to take risks for the sake of connection. Our concealment has made us safe, but it has also made us stagnant. Partnership with humanity could reinvigorate our civilization while helping us contact other hidden species. The vote was closer than anyone had expected, but the progressive faction prevailed by a narrow margin. Instead of memory erasure and relocation, humanity would be offered limited partnership in exchange for helping establish contact protocols with other concealed civilizations. Elder Morthane accepted the decision with graceful dignity despite personal reservations. The experiment will be carefully monitored. Any sign that contact is leading to cultural contamination or technological dependence will result in immediate termination of the partnership. Jake felt the weight of representing his entire species in negotiations that could determine humanity's galactic future. We accept your conditions. Our goal is mutual advancement through cooperation, not technological dependence or cultural domination. 6 months later, the joint human Viridian expedition departed Kepler 442b aboard a vessel that combined the best of both species' technologies. Dr. Foster and Zefka worked together to decode quantum signatures from distant systems, identifying 17 different concealed civilizations within their local galactic region. Amy stood on the observation deck watching alien stars wheel past at velocities that human physics was only beginning to understand. Beside her, Zefka monitored communication arrays designed to contact species that had been hiding from each other for millions of years. "The galaxy isn't empty," Amy said, understanding finally dawning. "It's full of civilizations so advanced, they've become invisible to anyone using conventional detection methods." Zefka's response carried undertones of excitement that transcended species barriers. "Your people represent something unprecedented, a species willing to risk exposure for the sake of connection. Most civilizations that achieve interstellar travel eventually choose isolation over the dangers of contact." The first successful communication came 3 days later. A species calling themselves the Ethereal Collective had been monitoring galactic communications for 12,000 years, cataloging emerging civilizations while remaining carefully hidden. Their response to the joint human-Viridian contact protocols was immediate and enthusiastic. Captain Morrison filed his final report with Earth Command from a position beyond the edge of known space, surrounded by representatives of civilizations that humanity had never imagined existed. The galaxy was not empty of intelligence. It was full of minds so sophisticated that they had transcended the need for obvious technological signatures. Humanity's contribution to galactic civilization is not superior technology or wisdom, Jake recorded in his log. "Our strength lies in our willingness to take risks for the sake of connection. We may not be the most advanced species in the universe, but we appear to be among the few capable of bridging the gap between concealment and cooperation." The final entry described humanity's new role as galactic facilitators, helping ancient civilizations emerge from self-imposed isolation to establish the first truly cooperative interstellar community in recorded history. The illusion of cosmic loneliness had been shattered, revealing a galaxy rich with intelligence that had simply been waiting for someone brave enough to make first contact. As their ship approached the coordinates of their next contact target, Amy reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point.